Hello and welcome to my world and a casual gamer's review of Star Trek Resurgence. I say casual gamer because that's what I am. Despite the fact that I stream 7 nights a week, I play a variety of games. I consider myself a casual gamer at heart because I am. I very much enjoy video games. I just don't dedicate myself to fully completing them to the extent to say the completionist Gerard does. The man with the epic beard. Who like I play video games for the enjoyment of them, and I can safely say right off the bat I thoroughly enjoyed Star Trek Resurgence in my very much unplanned marathon of the game several weeks ago. And I've been thinking about it because I do want to do another playthrough of it to see the other choices that I did not make. And the great thing about Star Trek Resurgence in terms of multiple playthroughs is that the achievement list uh, shows acts as a great checklist. So this way you will end up knowing what choices you did and did not make to have like a great payoff and an alternate uh, perspective on things. Uh, so it's and that is the strength of Star Trek Resurgence is you want to see a different point of view, much like the other games that the developers of it worked on. Because to my knowledge, those that worked on Star Trek Resurgence were alumni from the original version of Telltale Games. So they worked on stuff like The Walking Dead, the Guardians of the Galaxy game, the Game of Thrones Telltale series, the Minecraft series, the Wolf Among Us mini series of games, episodic excuse me. Yeah. Anyway, so that narrative, that desire to like see how things turned out, uh, like how could a story be affected in different ways with different outcomes, um, is rather important. And unlike a lot of the Telltale games these developers worked on, you have the achievement list to know to see what to do or what decisions to make things go a little bit differently. Not to mention dialogue actually plays a big part in terms of how the characters interact with the two characters that you take control of. So there's that. Now, if I do have to complain about one thing, actually two things about Star Trek Resurgence. Number one is that the quick time events are not exactly programmed well, as the button presses sometimes feel a little bit delayed in terms of their timing of when you actually press them in the actual uh, implementation of the action, as if a cutscene is actually playing out to a point before it registers your your action or inaction in some cases. Um, and the other big issue is you cannot see your choices in the game itself. You actually have to go to an external site to be able to view your choices, and which is a terrible way of doing things. I mean, the way I see it, it's basically just pushing people to where the developers and publishers, in this case, are pulling together a mailing list. Because to sign up, you got to sign up and register with a website to view the percentage choices and see how you stack with other players around the world who was playing the same game. So not having that actually implemented into the game itself to see your choices is a big detriment. Again, because I do feel they're just looking to build up a mailing list to be able to put out some advertising for whatever projects they are working on next. So again, there's a negative. Positives it is a great Star Trek experience. I've played a lot of Star Trek games in my 40 years on this planet. I've played Star Trek 25th Anniversary, Star Trek Judgment Right, Star Trek The Next Generation of Final Unity, Star Trek Generations on PC, Star Trek Next Generation on the Sega Genesis, Star Trek Voyager Elite Force, Star Trek Online, uh, Star Trek, the 2009 game that was released on PS3 and Steam. I think there was also an Xbox 360 version of that. I've played that. So I've played my fair share of Star Trek games, and Star Trek Resurgence definitely is among the elite of the giving a true Star Trek experience. I would dare say I will put it in that elite company of 25th Anniversary, Judgment Rights, a Final Unity, and like those classic games from like the early 90s that any Star Trek fans who played on PC back then, you know, y'all know how good those games were in terms of making you feel like you were a part, experiencing a true Star Trek adventure. And Star Trek Resurgence definitely does that. And it does it in a few big ways. Yes, it has a version of Spock, and the actor who provides Spock's voice does an incredible job of matching the tone and inflections of Leonard Nimoy. So there's that, and which is just awesome and incredible. Yes, this game has Jonathan Frakes appearing as Captain William Riker of the USS Titan. So yes, great little fan service there. But the biggest thing that I truly appreciate about Star Trek Resurgence is the fact that it is, in many ways, a direct sequel to the Next Generation first season episode, The Last Outpost, that introduced the concept of the Takan Empire. And so this game picked up is using a thread from an episode that aired back in 1987, and giving so much new lore and backstory, and yes, it's a bit of an invasion of the body snatchers type story. With the and it can be a little bit hokey, but then again, Star Trek itself, you go back to the 1960s, Star Trek has always been hokey to a very large degree. Um, Now, I do think that there is potential for sequels and follow-ups, and there's like, if you can carry forth, if there's a sequel to Star Trek Resurgence down the line, I personally would like to see it. But at the same time, I wouldn't mind seeing like taking a crack with another original adventure with another set of characters. But if this game does well enough and they get another chance for a sequel, I would love to see a sequel game pick up on other old Star Trek lore or things that like most people would not even think of or care about, or even consider being stuff to be followed up on. I'm not saying like go back to the Next Generation episode like Angel One, and see how things go forward, but you could easily say go back to the episode The Neutral Zone of season 1 of the Next Generation, because it wasn't really, it's been implied. Matter of fact, as I'm saying this, like I think it was said that the Borg were responsible for the outpost disappearing along the Romulan and Federation side of the border. As I'm saying that, but I was because I was going to use that as an example there. But there are so many different plot threads and things you can say. Hey, go back. What about what was it? The Iosians from the original series episode, A Piece of the Action. What's this follow up on that? Because hey, McCoy's communicator was left there back at the end of the episode, and outside of like a few references in the comics, I think in the '80s, there's been no follow up in regards to that. So, just giving an example there. So it's like, oh, there was cultural contamination. You gotta go back and fix it. And it's like, apply the Prime Directive. Hey, you can take the Resolute. Hey, say, go out into through the Bajoran wormhole into the Gamma Quadrant for exploration things, science, and so forth. So again, so many pieces and threads here, and if the reason why they put all those choices and you can only access your choices and see the percentages and stuff having to go through an external to a website and not being able to see in game is to try and see what people will look for in a sequel, but just based on the overall choices and percentages and things of that sort. To further, to give like make the characters of the first officer and the junior crewman who you're seeing there, to have those characters a bit more rounded out. But then again, the choice ends up being was like, how do you make this more canon when the crewman that the lower decks crewman that you have control of through half the game, there's that possibility of him not being alive or technically himself, depending on choices that you make towards the end of the game. Actually, a very big choice. So there's just so many tangibles and things of that sort. Now, I do look forward to playing Star Trek Resurgence again. I just hope I don't make the decision to do another 10-hour marathon of it because it's a bit much. Although the game is it is that good, but if you're going to, matter of fact, as I'm saying that, I am reminded of a huge glitch that at the time I am recording this on June 8th, 2023, was still not fixed, which was a glitch that prevents the trophies for 2 achievements from popping for completing acts 1 and 2. So if you're choosing to play Star Trek Resurgence, definitely about the 5 hour mark is where, if you're just playing it start to finish, 5 hour mark would be where I would recommend that you split it off. So at least it's like 2 nights or at least 2 playthroughs. But you can do what I did and play it all in one night. Just make sure you have a lot of snacks and stuff to keep your fuel up. Have some water and things and so forth. Again, we're ranting here, but like I said, it's a casual gamers review, so it's my thoughts, my opinions, my world. Anyway, till next time, everyone. Tighten your friendship bracelets. Stay safe. Have a good one, and we'll see you in the next video.